What's up, everyone? Welcome inside the fish tank. Today we will be doing our week 3 preview. We have a bunch of stuff for you guys today. I'm alongside my co-host Andrew Sferator and Nick Fasella. Today we're going to get into some more injuries, the latest injuries that have happened today. We have our love-hate for the week. We have our Thursday night football preview, and we will be giving our bold predictions of the week. Nick Fasella, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Thomas. And for this show, these couple of segments, these are going to be mainstays for us for the most part. The love hates each week. We're going to run through one of each position who we love and hate. Uh, Obviously, talk about the Thursday night game, and then we're going to end with bold predictions. So expect a lot of spice to come up in the next couple of weeks to come.
Yeah, prior to getting onto YouTube, we did some podcasts for our fellow league mates, and I think from their reactions, love hate was their favorite segment that we did. So I'm very excited to bring that to the public.
Yeah, man. So, Sferator, we got some new injuries that happened today. So, want to get into some of those?
Yeah, I'll just run through them real quick so we don't have a 30-minute discussion about injuries like last podcast. Today, the biggest news was Eagles wide receiver Jalen Reagor was diagnosed with a UCL sprain in his thumb. He's been placed on the IR. He is out at least 6 weeks. So that is just terrible news as he was injured previously in training camp and now he's injured again. DJ Chark, who plays tomorrow, is listed as questionable with chest and back injuries. Christian McCaffrey, who we talked about yesterday, and Sterling Shepard were placed on the IR, so they're both going to miss at least 3 weeks. Kyle Shanahan today came out and said that he would be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo, their quarterback, plays this Sunday versus the New York Giants. Staying in San Francisco, Tevin Coleman, diagnosed with a knee sprain. He's likely out at least 4 weeks, most likely more. Devontae Adams, star receivers for the Packers, did not practice today. We'll see how that plays out through the rest of the week. Justin Herbert, the rookie sensation, is going to start this Sunday for the Chargers against the Carolina Panthers. Definitely a better matchup for him. So let's see how he does returning. And finally, Kenny Golladay, who missed the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, has returned to practice and is very likely to make his debut this week.
You love to hear that
Yeah,
from Kenny Galladay.
I think that the two main injuries out of those are the two pieces of news that I'm paying most attention to are the quarterbacks because that just plays such a big role in the offense and the impacts for fantasy. So Garoppolo and Herbert starting. By the way, Tyrod Taylor, he has his own team doctor puncture his lung, trying to relieve his chest pain before the game. Oh my God!
That's terrible.
What an absolute joke. uh, but when I talk about the fantasy implications, Nick Mullins will be starting for San Francisco, so I don't expect to be starting anybody really in the passing game there. Obviously, you're starting Kittle if he plays, and then in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert, I'm still going to start the same guys because I think Herbert did just fine last week against Kansas City, and he gets the lowly touted Carolina Panther defense this week. So I'm going to start my Chargers, and I'm going to sit for the majority. I'm going to sit most of my 49ers.
Yeah, definitely. I think Keenan Allen's a very good start this week. I think he could have a huge week against a Carolina defense that's still very young and still growing together. I also think Devontae Adams is a pretty big injury to look out for. Missing practice today. That's never a good sign. Uh, we all know he's injury prone. Last year he missed a couple weeks with turf toe, I believe it was.
Yep.
So that is something to keep an eye on. Rodgers needs him in there. So that's a injury to look out for.
All right, I guess we'll move on to the Thursday night football preview. This week it is the Dolphins and the Jaguars battle of Florida. Jaguars currently -3, over under set at 48. So I guess we'll get into it.
Yeah, definitely. Miami, Jacksonville, not the most powerful offenses you can say. But there's definitely some guys that you should be looking out for in this in this matchup. Let's start off with Jacksonville, because Jacksonville has a good amount of guys that you can start. So let's start off with Jacksonville running back James Robinson. I think he could be a good play this week. He gets a lot of touches, 16 carries both games. I think he's a low end two for the weekend. Honestly, if he gets in, he's a high end two.
I have him
Yeah,
listed. I have him listed as a running back 2 this week, as a solid running back 2 this week. I mean, this guy is the definition of a guy in a backfield. He's getting all the carries for them, and he is producing. He had a really good game last week. He hit pay dirt, so if he can hit pay dirt again, I definitely think he's gonna have a really good week, just like last week.
yeah. If I'm ranking these guys, these guys in the order of who I like the best, best to worst, I definitely like James Robinson the best. Then I like Devontae Parker, DJ Chark, Mike Gesicki. Then after that, it's pretty much just a whole cluster of guys. And I think of when I think about the quarterbacks in this matchup, obviously both defenses are not the best. So I think both these quarterbacks and Ryan Fitzpatrick and Gardner Minshew are startable. I would rather have Minshew and Fitzpatrick over a guy like Drew Brees, who I think is going to struggle on Sunday. And I might also rather have him over Tom Brady, but I'm not sure about that yet. I'll have to wait and see on Brady. But for the most part, I think I share the same sentiment as Thomas that most of these guys are startable and should be in your lineups.
Yeah, about the quarterback position, I think if you have guys like maybe like if you have Jimmy G and Drew Lock as your two quarterbacks, I think Fitzpatrick and Minshew can both be very startable players. Minshew honestly has played great to start, very surprising. He's been very efficient. So I think Minshew could definitely be a startable quarterback. Miami defense hasn't looked that impressive, so I think he's a good start. I want to talk about the Jacksonville wide receivers now because there's a few of them that honestly, obviously DJ Chark, he should be in all line, maybe not all lines, but he should be in most lineups. Very good wide receiver. I want to talk about these two players, Laviska Shenault, the rookie, and Keenan Cole. I think both of them could be sneaky flex plays, as Laviska has had 10 plus in his first two NFL career games, and he also saw 5 rushes in week 2, which might have been surprising. And then Keenan Cole, I think, is more reliable than Laviska Shenault because Keenan Cole has had 11 catches for 2 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. So, Andrew Svertor, what are your thoughts on those two wide receivers?
Yeah, that is definitely interesting that Chenault got work in the backfield last week. But if I had to pick one of these guys, Chenault or Keelan Cole, like you said, I think Keelan Cole is going to be the more reliable one. I think with Chenault, you're going to be relying on a big play downfield to really boost his stats up. So if I'm playing one this week, I'm playing Keelan Cole.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Keelan Cole's kind of dominated the Jaguars' targets. You would think it's DJ Chark, but no, it's Keelan Cole, who we didn't really see playing a factor this year. So definitely Cole over Chenault for me too. But I don't really think I'm going to start either of these guys just based on depth and at other positions too.
Yeah. Last guy for Jacksonville, I just want to talk about him quickly. I'm just interested to see what Chris Thompson does week 3 because Chris Thompson, I thought, could have a very sneaky good year this year and be a low-end RB2 if he could play how he did in Washington, and that just hasn't happened so far. I believe he only has 5 catches in the first 2 weeks, and I was expecting him to get a lot of catches back there. We all know Leonard Fournette was very good pass catching back last year, and I expected him to fill that role, and it hasn't happened. He did have a receiving touchdown last week, but like I said, only 3 catches, I believe. So I'm going to see him do some more before I really like him. Any thoughts on Chris Thompson from either of you?
Yeah, as soon as Fournette got released, the guy that everyone started jumping at was Chris Thompson because of what he did in Washington before he got injured. And before he got injured in Washington, he was a really good running back, and people are expecting that to carry over to Washington. And in week 1, he was basically non-existent. I don't think he was even on the field in that game. So that definitely let a lot of people down, especially the people that used a large amount of their free agent budget to acquire him. So we'll see how they involve him in this offense. I think he is the most athletic player in their backfield, but obviously they're very high on the undrafted rookie James Robinson. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean, Thompson, I think is going to be a sit for me. I know we caught a touchdown last week, but he only week 1 he only played 24% of the snaps, and last week 41% of the snaps. So I had expectation, like Sartor said, coming into the year, but I think I'm gonna cut ties with Chris Thompson and not keep him on my roster for the rest of the year.
yeah, so we'll see what happens this week. Maybe they use him a little bit more. Now let's move on to the Miami backfield, which honestly, it is a complete mess right now. But people having some hope for running back Myles Gaskin. He has 10 receptions in his first 2 games. 6 actually in week 2. 16 carries in the first 2 weeks. What are your thoughts on Myles Gaskin? Do you think he could be the guy along with Breida and Jordan Howard? Or do you think it's still just a 3-way backfield back there? Nick Fish, what are your thoughts?
Gaskin is definitely the guy if you're looking for a Miami running back play this week. Jordan Howard has been really a non-factor. I mean, when you look at Jordan Howard's stats, week 1 it was like 7 carries, 8 yards, and a touchdown. Last week it was like 6 carries, 7 yards, and a touchdown.
3 carries, 2 yards, and a touchdown.
Oh well, even worse. So he's pretty much he's just their goal line back. That's it. I don't even know why they signed this guy if they're just going to use Gaskin, who they already had from last year, and Matt Breida hasn't played a factor yet either. So if you're looking for a guy, it's Gaskin, but I'm staying away from this backfield.
You know what I make of this situation? This is what the Miami Dolphins must have been thinking. They're like, I really like this Jordan Howard guy. Let's bring him in. Let's sign him to a contract. I really like this Matt Breida guy too. Let's go trade for him. But no, we're not going to use either one of those guys. We're going to go to our 7th round pick in Myles Gaskin, and we're going to make him the guy in the backfield. And that I just don't understand that. Obviously, I think if I had to pick one to have for the rest of the season, it would be Myles Gaskin because he's getting the most of the touches. But I mean, it's just a very, very murky situation until something clears up. None of them are going to be in my starting lineup.
Yeah, definitely. But I want to talk about this. I will read you Jordan Howard's stats from week 1 and 2. 8 rushes for 7 yards and a touchdown. 5 rushes for 4 yards and a touchdown. That is impressively bad. Impressively bad. But yeah, I would stay away too. But Gaskin could be someone to keep on the bench. So now to Miami receivers, we got Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, and Isaiah Ford had a sneaky good week last week with 7 catches for 76 yards. But I also want to say this: Preston Williams has disappointed me very much.
Oh, yeah.
He has 3 catches. I don't know in the first 2 weeks. I don't know how you do that. So that's disappointing. But Sferzo, what are your thoughts on Isaiah Ford and then the lack of production from Preston Williams?
Yeah, I just want to say that the Preston Williams owner in our league dropped him this week. So I wonder if anyone's going to bite on Preston Williams and hope he breaks out. But I still think Devontae Parker is the wide receiver to own. Although I do think Isaiah Ford has some potential that he showed last week. So he's definitely a good bench stash. I think Parker should be in your lineup as a flex or wide receiver too if you're that desperate. But yeah, Isaiah Ford, put him on your bench and hope he continues the production he had last week.
Yeah, I share the same sentiments that you guys do. It's pretty simple. I mean, the only receiver you're starting this week is Devontae Parker. You're sitting everybody else, and you're starting the tight end Gesicki too.
Yeah, it's a good point, Fish. Gesicki had a career week last week.
Monster week.
career weekend. Maybe this is his breakout year. People have been saying it for the past couple of years. Tight end out of, I believe, Penn State, and I think he could definitely break out this year. I mean, 8 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. I mean,
I mean, and
honestly, that's what people have been expecting from him, and I believe this is his third career year. So,
did you see
uh,
that one-handed catch that he made? I mean, that catch was insane. He was
that
he was
that
running
was
forward, he leaned back, lifted one hand up, and he came down with it. I mean, that was just
incredible catch, and
spectacular.
I think that's what Miami is really looking for from Gesicki, a pure receiving tight end. I mean, I think he has a chance to break out.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's it for our Thursday night football preview, and now we'll move on for our love hate segment.
Our love-hate segment, as I stated before, our most anticipated segment by some of the viewers. So let's just get right into it. Thomas Walsh, who is your quarterback love of the week?
My quarterback love of the week from New England, Cam Newton. I mean, against Las Vegas. Las Vegas played pretty well against Drew Brees, but I don't see how Cam Newton doesn't put up another 25 plus game here. I mean, their defense, they played well against New Orleans, I'll give them that, but I think Edelman played really well last week. Cam Newton, of course, with all his rushing touchdowns and rushing yards. I think against a weak Las Vegas defense, I think Cam Newton and the Patriots got a field day there. 30 plus points, I think, from the Patriots, and I think Cam Newton has a good chance for another 30 plus,
I'm
30
not,
plus fantasy game.
I'm not sure if it was the Raiders playing well or if it was Breeze just absolutely being terrible. I
Breeze was
mean,
not
he
good,
did not look good at all without his old reliable Michael Thomas there.
not at all.
Fish, who is your quarterback love of the week?
My love of the week is the quarterback that I have on my fantasy team. It's quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Mhm.
When you watch Ben play the last 2 weeks, he looks like he's himself again. There's no hesitation in his throwing motion. He's accurate. He's making the throws. He's got great weapons around him. The first 2 weeks, he's averaged 21 fantasy points, which is top 10 in the league. I think he's a top 8 play this week against the Texans, who are pretty bad and beaten up as a team right now. With Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, and James Conner out of the backfield, I expect a pretty big week from Ben Roethlisberger, and I expect him to stay on that track of around 21 to 26 fantasy points this week against the Texans.
Yep. There's going to be more to come on that game later in the podcast. I guess I will give my quarterback love of the week, which is Tennessee Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill against the Minnesota Vikings, who might be one of the worst, who are one of the worst teams in the National Football League right now. I mean, they can't do anything. Their defense is terrible. Their offense can't move the ball. So Ryan Tannehill, after he came in week 7 for the Tennessee Titans as their starter, he finished as the quarterback 3 in total points from then on, and he was on pace to finish as the quarterback 2 last year with 360 total fantasy points. So this is a guy who, once again, came out of the Adam Gase offense that we talked about yesterday, and showed his true potential. And his true potential is that he's a very, very good starter in an NFL team. And against this Minnesota defense, who's allowing the 11th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year, and last week Tannehill threw 4 touchdowns without his top receiver in AJ Brown, who's likely to return this week. So I'm expecting big things from Tannehill this week.
All right. The only thing that I have concerns about with Tannehill are that they're still a run-heavy offense. Last week he had 18 completions on 24 passing attempts. That's really, really low. And he threw 4 touchdowns on those 24 passing attempts. So you look at that efficiency rate, and that's really high. So I don't know if you could really expect Tannehill to be that efficient week after week, but he definitely has a good matchup this week. And I'm not as sure as you are that AJ Brown returns this week due to what Adam Schefter said last week, that this could be a multi-week thing for AJ Brown with his knee.
Yeah,
All
I don't
right.
know if AJ Brown, if he does come back, I don't know if I like him this week that much. I mean, if he does come back, because Ryan Tannehill, first of all, AJ Brown, he might have been banged up week 1, but he didn't get that many receptions week 1, and I feel like Tannehill, as you said, only 24
24.
pass attempts, but either way, he's not just gonna force feed his number 1 receiver the ball. Tannehill, I feel like more is a play action type of guy. You got John New Smith. He spreads the ball around pretty well. So I don't know how I feel about AJ Brown going forward, especially with the injury. I think if he's not on the field for 100% of the plays, that I don't know if he's gonna be able to get his as many catches as you'd like to say.
Moving on over to the running backs. Nick, who is your running back love of week 3?
Yeah, it's another Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns, and it's pretty simple. I think I've got this backfield figured out. It's whenever these guys, especially Nick Chubb, is going to be a star when they play bad teams, because the Browns' formula for success is running the football, and when they have those leads late, they're just going to pound the rock even more. So I expect them to run the ball for the most of the time when the game is competitive, which I think it'll be. At worst for the Browns, I think it'll be competitive, and the likely scenario is that they're leading by the third quarter. I still think Chubb, he dominates the touches in that offense too. He had 24 carries last week and a catch, so 25 touches. I know Kareem Hunt had 10 carries. I don't know how many catches he got, but around that 15 touch range. So Chubb is still the alpha there, and I think Chubb is the more likely to score than Hunt too. So I think Chubb. Has a really nice game this week against the Washington Redskins.
I think that backfield is actually it is the best backfield in the NFL with Chubb and Hunt, who I believe can both in the same week put up top tier running back numbers. So I would start both of them if you have either of them. Thomas, who is your running back love of the week?
I will be taking Philadelphia Eagles running back Miles Sanders against the Bengals defense that does not look that impressive whatsoever. I think that Sanders gets more involved in the passing game. He had 3 catches for 36 yards last week, and I think 3 catches is going to be his minimum reception. So I really do expect him to get some more catches. He found the end zone. I believe he had 90 plus rushing yards on 20 carries, I believe, and I expect that number to stay the same. And I expect him to be leading the game. And with a struggling Carson Wentz, I think they're going to really try to pound the rock.
Oh yeah, struggling Carson Wentz is an understatement. This guy looks terrible. So if they, some people like me drafted Miles Sanders in the first round, and some people like me were very happy to see the workload that he got last week coming off the hamstring injury, and he did not look banged up at all. So I'm very excited to see what he does against this Bengals defense, who is not good. My running back love of the week is going to be Arizona Cardinals running back Kenyon Drake versus the Detroit Lions. Kenyon Drake owners are probably disappointed after his first 2 weeks, but I'm here to tell you that he is going to bounce back this week. He's going to have a big game against this Detroit defense, who just allowed 3 touchdowns to Aaron Jones. So, I mean, if there's an offense that you need a bounce back week for, this is up there with the worst of them. So I'm expecting big things from Drake this week.
Yeah, I think Drake has a bounce back week. I mean, he didn't get off to the best start, but I think it's gonna be a high scoring game, and I think Drake might find the end zone a couple times this week. I would honestly say he has a good chance to find the end zone 2 or 3 times against a weakened Lions defense. So I expect a big game from Drake.
All right, I guess I'll start us off with the wide receivers. So my wide receiver is Terry McLaurin of the Washington football team playing against the Cleveland Browns. So Terry McLaurin, far and away the most athletic and most talented player on this Washington offense. And he's the guy for Dwayne Haskins. And this is a defense that just got lit up by rookie quarterback Joe Burrow. So I think McLaurin is going to catch about 7 or 8 passes for a score. And since he's the only threat in this offense, it's gonna rely on him if they want to win this week.
No argument there from me. My love at the wide receiver position this week is Darius Slayton. And it's this simple. Whenever as I said last episode, when one of Shepard, Ingram, or Tate are out, Darius Slayton becomes a must start at the wide receiver position. At worst, a flex in your starting lineup for your fantasy squad. And it gets even better because he plays a devastated, injury-ragged San Francisco defense this week. They got torn. Their defense got torn up last week in the Meadowlands.
Torn up.
Yeah, literally. So Darius Slayton, he's got a good connection with Jones. He's a must start this week.
Yeah, my wide receiver for the week, Fist, based off what you said for your quarterback, give me Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, Juju's fully back from how he was in previous years. Last year, he had a college quarterback playing in the NFL. I mean, it was a joke. I mean, Big Ben is back. I mean, 2 touchdowns week 1, 24 fantasy points. So I think a big game against this Houston defense. I mean, I think Juju has a huge game along with Deontay Johnson, but I think Juju, a huge game this week against Houston.
All right. Now on to the tight ends. So, Thomas, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start off with the tight ends. My tight end love for the week is actually my own tight end this week, and I will be taking Evan Ingram. I noticed last week when Saquon went down and Jones was trying to lead a comeback, he really focused on Evan Ingram and trying to get the ball to him. Ingram finished with 6 catches, and I think that Jones might really try to get Ingram more involved in the offense. Week 1, Ingram was just not involved whatsoever. So I think with Shepard and Saquon going down, I think they're going to go to their receiving tight end, Evan Ingram.
All right, I got Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens playing against what I think will be the highest scoring game of the week in the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. I believe, even though he only had 1 catch last week, I still think he's Lamar Jackson's #1 target, and I think he's still a top tier tight end in the league. So I expect a touchdown. I expect a lot of volume. So that equates to a big week.
All right. My tight end love of the week is Hunter Henry. And Hunter Henry's a guy that kind of flies under the radar a little bit in the fantasy world. Most people don't really know a lot about him because it's pretty simple. He's been just a very solid, mediocre at worst fantasy tight end when he's healthy. First 2 weeks, he's put up pretty respectable numbers. He had 12 PPR fantasy points and 14 PPR fantasy points. He showed a pretty nice connection with Justin Herbert, catching 6 passes for 84 yards last week. And it gets better this week. We talked about it earlier, he plays a really bad defense in the Carolina Panthers. And pretty much all that needs to happen for Hunter Henry is he needs to get in the end zone. Once he does that, he's the top 5 tight end.
Those are the players we love. Now, on the contrary, we're going to talk about the players that we hate this week. Starting off with the quarterbacks. Fish, you want to start us off?
All right. My hated quarterback this week, the aforementioned Drew Brees. Drew Brees is old. He is washed up. He's 41 years old. It's been pretty clear over these first 2 weeks, 155 passing yards against Tampa Bay, and then a very poor game on Monday night against the Raiders. It's clear he's at a loss in accuracy, and he doesn't have the same arm strength he once had. I don't expect Michael Thomas to suit up for this game. I think they give him an extra week with that high ankle sprain. So that's obviously really bad news for Drew Brees, as he doesn't really have many weapons other than Alvin Kamara to throw to in that offense. And he's playing a Packer team that I think will put up a pretty decent fight against Brees and isn't going to be, he's not going to be able to walk over the Packer D on Sunday Night Football. So I hate Drew Brees this week.
I think
he looked bad last week.
If Thomas is not playing, there's no way you can start Brees. And even if Thomas is playing, I think it's still pretty hard to insert him into your lineup. All right, so my quarterback hate of the week is going to be someone we talked about yesterday. It is Deshaun Watson playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And in this offense, the biggest question coming in was who's going to fill in that DeAndre Hopkins role. And it doesn't look like anyone has stepped up yet. Will Fuller had a good game in week 1, then went away in week 2. Brandon Cooks, good game in week 2, but was not there in week 1. So they're going to need someone consistently to be able to step up and catch passes from Deshaun Watson if he wants to remain as an elite fantasy quarterback. And to add on top of that, he's playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have one of the best defenses overall.
Yes, sir. So I agree with everything you just said. Watson will most likely be on my bench this week, and Rodgers will be starting over him. But I can't trust Watson this week against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Now, my quarterback hate of the week is contrary to my quarterback love of the week. So Derek Carr is my quarterback hate this week. Maybe not many people, but a few people have been saying that Derek Carr looks very good. The 2-0 Raiders. I think that New England completely shuts down the passing game. Gilmore, you got the McCourties. I think they completely shut down Derek Carr. I think Josh Jacobs can still have a good week, but I think after a good week against New Orleans with 21 fantasy points, him and Darren Waller had that good connection, but I think Carr gets completely shut down this week against New England.
Okay, sounds good. Thomas, who is your running back hate of the week?
My running back hate is Devin Singletary against a Rams defense. I think Aaron Donald. You have Michael Brockers.
Just Aaron Donald.
Yeah, Michael Brockers has had a pretty good year, but I think Devin Singletary gets shut down this week. I mean, Zach Moss has been involved a little bit, no, more than a little bit, but he's been involved, so I don't see Singletary really getting that much on the ground. Maybe he catches 2 or 3 passes, but I wouldn't expect a big game from Singletary.
I will have to agree with you there. My running back hate of the week is actually the entire Los Angeles Rams backfield. And the reason for this is you can't pick out a guy and say he's the starter, and which is exactly why I hate them this week. Brown and Akers both got hurt last week and came out of the game, which is why Henderson had that good finish. But if one of them plays, which I think at least one of them will play, I think they basically negate each other. I don't think anyone is going to have enough touches unless they break off for a long touchdown, which you can't be reliant on. So you can't really start any of these guys with confidence. You're basically just throwing up a prayer and saying, please give me this goal line touch from this guy.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just a mess. And even if, a guy were to emerge, they're playing the Bills, who are one of the top defenses in the league. So that's a bad matchup from that standpoint. My running back hate of the week is a guy who was on my hate list last week. I'll go back to the well again. David Johnson, running back, Houston Texans, going up against that dreaded Pittsburgh defense. We know what Pittsburgh does to running backs like Saquon Barkley. It took Melvin Gordon, I think, like 19 carries or something to get 70 yards last week. And I don't see the opportunity for David Johnson here. I think the scoring opportunities, which is what he's going to need to have a solid outing, is a score. And I think those opportunities will be limited against Pittsburgh. And I think they're going to have to throw the ball because they're going to get behind in this game. And I don't know how much David Johnson really factors into the passing game. So I'm going to hate David Johnson this week again.
Yes, Ferrator, Fish, I agree with both of those. And I want to say one thing about the Rams backfield. They don't even have someone that you can say at least you will get like the pass catching work. You just really don't know at all.
No, you don't. All right, wide receivers. I will start it off with Marvin Jones playing the Arizona Cardinals, who many people probably don't know this, but they have given the least amount of points up to wide receivers this year. So with Galladay coming back, I'm not sure that this Lions offense, who was never known to be at the top of the pack or at the bottom of the pack, they're always usually in the middle. So I'm not sure that they can sustain two wide receiver starters this week, especially against, like I said, this Arizona defense, who is tough against the wide receiver.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a problem with this. I don't hate Marvin Jones at all this week, and I think when you say that the Cardinals they give up the least amount of points to receivers, well, you look at who they played. they played the 49ers, who have no healthy wide receivers who can play. And last week, Terry McLaurin, the only startable Redskin wide receiver, had a really nice game at 7 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. So I think that stat of the Cardinals being the toughest against receivers, I think that's fugazi. I wouldn't buy that at all. And I think with Galladay plays, that only helps Marvin Jones, because Galladay is going to get coverage from Patrick Peterson. So I think Stafford will be looking Marvin Jones's way a lot in a game that they're going to have to throw a lot in. So I don't agree with that hate at all.
No, I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you right here. I don't think I agree with Ferrator with that. I do not like Marvin Jones this week. I disagree with Fish on his reasoning. I mean, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals defense has to do anything with Marvin Jones playing bad. I think it has to do with the return of Kenny Golladay. Those two receivers, as a Kenny Golladay owner from last year and this year, they never really play that well together. Marvin Jones, of course, will have his 4 touchdown games that we saw last week, where Kenny Golladay will have his 2 touchdown games. Never really play well together, so I don't think the Cardinals' defense is the factor for Marvin Jones. But I also don't like Marvin Jones either. I think Kenny Golladay would definitely take some time. I think Kenny Golladay, when he comes back to speak, I think he'll get most of the targets.
All right. Thomas, your hate?
I actually mentioned this earlier. AJ Brown against the Viking. Yes, I believe the Vikings. As much as the Vikings' defense, is not the best and has proven to be awful recently. I don't like AJ Brown, as I mentioned earlier. I mean, 5 catches for 39 yards was that concerns me a lot, actually, because the 5 catches are all right, but the fact that he only had 39 receiving yards definitely concerns me. And I think that they're going to be leading a lot in this game, which means that here comes 30 plus, not 30 plus, but about 30 carries for Derrick Henry. So I don't like AJ Brown, but I do like some of the tight end receivers. I like Jonnu Smith this week, but an injured AJ Brown, if he's not playing 100% of the snaps, that worries me.
I am with you there. So, Nick, who is your wide receiver hate?
My hate is T.Y. Hilton this week of the Indianapolis Colts. It's pretty straight up here. Philip Rivers is not a good quarterback in the NFL. He's old and washed up like Breeze. Indianapolis, I think, likes to spread the ball around their offense, which is bad for T.Y. Hilton, who was Andrew Luck's clear number 1 target, and Jacoby Brissett's also. And I think that when they play the worst team in the NFL, or they play a high school football team this week, they're not going to have to throw the ball. They're not going to have to throw the ball at all. They're just going to be able to – they're going to get up early, and then they're just going to pound the rock with Jonathan Taylor. So there's not going to be any need for T.Y. Hilton. And last week, I think the game scripts from last week when they played the Vikings and this week when they play the Jets are going to be very similar. And if that's the same case with T.Y. Hilton, that doesn't bode well at all. Hilton only played 58% of the snaps last week. So I don't think he's going to be a major factor in the Colts offense this week.
I agree with you there, Fish.
I was going to put Taylor as a love this week, but I feel like that was too obvious. I think it's just a guarantee that Taylor's going to have a good game. So, on to our final position of the hate list, the tight end. Thomas, you want to start us off?
I mean, as Fish said, the high school team, I mean, a lot of people had hoped for this particular high school football player, but Chris Herndon is on my hate list. I mean, coming from a Jets fan, I had high hopes for him. I thought he was going to be Darnold's go-to, and he has just not played well. He had 1 catch last week, going up against a pretty good Colts defense. They have a good line. They have a very good linebacking core with featuring Darius Leonard, of course. So I do not see Herndon doing much this week. I don't see how he gets over 3 catches. I mean, some people drafted Herndon as their starting tight end. Maybe not starting, but looking to start him further down the year. And I don't think he's going to become that tight end, which is sad to see because I thought Herndon had a lot of potential, but Adam Gase just takes it all away.
Adam Gase is a fantasy point vacuum. He just sucks it all up and eats it for dinner. So his players can't get any love. So, like I said yesterday, as long as he's the head coach, there's not going to be many Jets players that are fantasy relevant.
Oh, boy.
For my tight end, I have Jared Cook, who had very high expectations last week to fill in for Michael Thomas, and that did not come true at all, only catching 2 out of 5 of his targets for 13 yards. He did score a touchdown, which kind of saved his week, but he still didn't live up to his expectations. And with we said earlier, this Green Bay defense is definitely a tough one to play against, and that combined with Drew Brees not looking like his former self is going to combine to make Jared Cook a bad play this week.
And no arguments from me there. My tight end hate of the week is Dallas Goedert, who's had a pretty he had a pretty nice week 1, disappointed a little in week 2, and I don't really see a bunch of opportunity for him coming this week. We obviously have our concerns and questions about how good Philadelphia's passing offense is. We said last episode that we have concerns about Zach Ertz, but just because we have worries about Ertz doesn't automatically mean that Goddard's going to be a star now. I don't really know. Obviously, I know Andrew Sparator is starting him this week against me in our head-to-head matchup, but I don't know how Goddard is really that you can be that confident in starting him when he's the tight end 2 on his team. He's going to be competing for targets, and Wentz is really bad. So I just don't see the opportunity there. I mean, and Goddard's not going to be that guy he was week 1 on a consistent basis. So I don't like him this week, even though he's got a pretty nice matchup. I just don't see the opportunity for targets with Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I'm not so sure Zach Ertz is the number 1 tight end on this offense, though. I mean, Dallas Goedert is out targeting him. So I wouldn't jump to conclusions that Ertz is automatically the tight end just based on his pedigree.
Yeah,
I would. His pedigree is good enough where he is the number 1 tight end on that team, and he's led him in snap counts each of the first 2 weeks also. So Ertz is definitely the number 1 tight end there in Philly.
I disagree. You might be right with the Ertz being number 1, but I don't think that. I think this could be a week where both of these guys can both be fantasy stars. I mean, I think that the Eagles might try to get Wentz going against a terrible Bengals defense. I think this is a week you can see both of these guys do get some catches, and I think this is a week both of them might find the end zone as well. So I think they're going to try to get Wentz going. And I mean, listen, if Wentz can't get going, there is a reason to concern if he can't get himself going against the Bengals. But if he does, I think both these tight ends can be starters this week.
All right. I think that wraps it up for our week 3 love hates, and now we're going to move into our bold predictions for the week. This is where we're going to make these crazy statements and try to back them up and hope that they come to fruition in week 3. So let's start off with Thomas Walsh. Give us your boldest statement for this week.
The number 1 wide receiver of the week will be, as I mentioned earlier, Juju Smith-Schuster. There is no way that Juju does not finish as number 1 against a Texans defense that is just horrible. I think this game could turn into a smacking if Deshaun Watson doesn't play well. I think Watson has a chance to keep him in the game, but if not, I think Big Ben from the start just shreds up this Texans secondary. And with J.J. Watt on the line, I don't know if James Conner will be that efficient this week. So I think throwing the ball is Juju will have an amazing week, and I think he has a good chance to get into the end zone twice. I think he'll see 7+ receptions. I mean, I think it's a great week for Juju.
I just want to point out that we did not share these with each other prior to this because we wanted some original reactions. So my bold prediction is that the Pittsburgh Steelers will have 3 top 18 wide receivers this week. And it's going to be in this order, too. It's going to go Deontay Johnson, Charles Claypool, and Juju Smith-Schuster third. And I just think
it's Chase Claypool, by the way.
Sorry, Chase Claypool. I just think that, like you said, this could turn into a WWE SmackDown for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Texans. And that happens, there's going to be some a lot of passing from Big Ben, and it's going to cause these wide receivers to go off.
Oh wait, who did you say was the third guy?
Juju.
Boy, I'm not sure that's
It's a bold
accurate.
prediction.
It's
I
bold.
never said
They
I never said
I
he was
think
the
there's a
third
chance
receiver in the offense.
I think there's
I
a
said
know
chance Johnson and Juju both finish wide receiver ones.
they could, but three guys they call them bold statements for a
that's
reason.
why they're
I
bold
guess.
predictions.
All right, so I'll say
This
this
is about to
bold
be like
prediction.
Marvel finishes the running back one. That's gonna be finishing.
Quite the opposite. It is quarterback related. All right, here it is. Mitchell Trubisky will finish as a top 3 quarterback this week.
Honestly, I can see that, Fish. I mean, this is
All right, wait a second. So we got one guy that's saying, all right, I could see that happening. And then we've got another guy that's walking out. So before I start, all right, why'd you
No,
walk
I'm
out?
gonna take this one. First of all, this is an atrocious Atlanta Falcons defense. There is no other word to describe this defense than complete atrocious. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. You were up 20 points and the defense allows a comeback. I mean, come on now. They've allowed 40 plus. I believe they allowed 40 plus week one too as well. Correct?
Yes. Yep.
I mean, come
That's
on now.
accurate.
And Mitchell Trubisky, who's actually played very well recently. I mean, I think. I'm not saying it's happening, but for a bold prediction, I can definitely see this. I mean, Farrell, you're crazy for thinking this is impossible.
No, I
You're out of your
I
out of
didn't
your
even hear
mind.
I didn't hear the rest of the prediction. As soon as you said Mitchell Trubisky, I didn't want to hear the rest because Mitchell Trubisky is terrible. He does not deserve to be a starter in the National Football League, and that is why I just walked out. I don't buy the Mitchell Trubisky. You're looking up his stats right now. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
That is such a bad take by you. He's
That
played
is awful.
fine in the first 2 weeks.
You're telling me a 24-point performance against the Detroit defense, which isn't good, and now he goes up against an Atlanta defense, and you don't think that he can do anything like that? I mean, that's crazy to think that.
That is such a bad take by you. I mean,
That is
come on.
crazy. If they were playing if they were playing a somewhat bad defense, I could understand. They are playing a defense that I have no word. This defense is not brain cells. I mean, how do you allow 40 plus points back-to-back weeks?
This defense is absolutely terrible, and Mitchell Trubisky's played well. And I think the Falcon offense is going to fire on all cylinders again. So Mitchell Trubisky's going to have to throw in that game also. How is that not a good prediction?
Are we really sure that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be able to do what he's been doing the past 2 weeks, though?
I think any quarterback with a hand can do what Wilson and Prescott did to the Falcons offense.
The Falcons are terrible.
I know the Falcons
Trubisky's
are terrible.
played well.
Trubisky is also terrible.
He's
terrible.
Played well.
I'm not going to take 2 games.
Year.
I'm not going to take 2 games out of the whole context of his entire career.
Wait a second. Last episode, you were taking 2 games for Josh Allen and calling him a star and a top 4 quarterback.
He's been playing like
a
star.
About?
Because he's been playing.
So Trubisky's played well.
He's not playing like a star.
And playing like a competent quarterback, and that is all it takes to destroy the Falcons' defense is to be competent. And the way he's been playing, he's looked like that. I mean, come on now.
That's a very incompetent take by Sperator. You got it better. We need to do a better job next time.
Okay, everyone.
Right.
I had a great time. I think we're gonna try to get another episode in maybe Friday or Saturday before Sunday comes around. Am I right?
Hopefully.
We can arrange something like that.
Yeah, we'll definitely try to get that out there, and it's time to leave the fish tank, everyone.
Make sure you tell your friends, tell your family, subscribe to Fish Tank Fantasy.
Also tell yourself if you're not subscribed to subscribe.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We're really trying to build a nice community out there, so please subscribe, and we'll see you very soon. Enjoy your Sunday if we don't come to you by then.